Hello, everybody. I am so unbelievably excited to share with you the real magic, actually, of AI Gigapixel. So the real question is, what will you do with 3,600% more? Now, in this case, obviously, what we're talking about is more pixels. And I'm going to start out the presentation today just by giving you like a visual idea of what 3,600, more actually means. So if you're starting off with a photograph that is at 300 dpi, 4 inches by 3 inches, essentially this is all you have. There's nothing else. There's no more information there. Whereas after you put that image through AI Gigapixel, this is the size comparison. So you can see in the lower left-hand corner is the image that we started out with, and that is 1/6 the horizontal and the vertical resolution of the image. And the real magic of AI Gigapixel is how it can use AI imagination to actually create more data and to create realistic detail. So if we were to look at the information that we started off with in this image, in that very low-res file, this is all we have. And that's the only thing the AI Gigapixel can see. And this is what AI Gigapixel creates from that information. So 3,600% more information has been created with AI Gigapixel. So the real question is, what are the applications of this, and actually how does this compare with some of the leading ways that people upscale or enlarge their photos? So as you all know, you can zoom in on a photo as much as you want, but eventually you're going to hit the pixels. So these are the pixels that are really there. Here's what happens when you try to use Photoshop's enlarging technologies. And Photoshop does a wonderful job of interpolation. They call it a bicubic interpolation, and it takes the pixels and it kind of softens it up and it gives you a softer version of the enlarged photo. Now, the leading enlargement software is made by On1. So this is an example of what On1 does with enlarging. It uses a fractal algorithm. And then finally, here is AI Gigapixel. Now, I'm sure you noticed from the moment that we started off with just the pixels, and if we were to switch back and forth between the pixels and the final result, you'll see how AI Gigapixel is picking up all this wonderful detail that was missing in the photograph. And what's even more impressive is when we compare it to somewhat of the painterly kind of look, or this kind of like a cellular pattern that you get from fractal-based resizing. Whereas when you look at the results that AI Gigapixel does for you, the results are definitely a lot more natural. And this is where things get really, really exciting. This whole AI imagination and how Gigapixel can extrapolate real data and actually create real data. I'm about to show you right now the workflow of how you can use it to crop in on an image and tell a completely different story. I love this photograph, but the story that I want to tell about this photograph is going to be better if I could crop it in so we can't see the monkeys that are here in, actually I don't want to see the reflection at all. All I want to see is just the monkey looking at maybe another monkey, which is kind of neat because that's all we got, right? Nothing else. I'm going to go ahead and crop that, and let's save that out. And let's see, actually it saved it over itself, which is fine, right? So let's take that file and now launch the AI Gigapixel. Here we go. So very simple user interface here in AI Gigapixel. We choose the image that we just saved out, which is the monkey.psd file, which is right there. And we're going to keep this like a very simple set of options in AI Gigapixel. In the upper right-hand corner, it gives you options of either scaling it or specifying a particular size. And I'm going to just go ahead and stay with the scale. I'm going to max it out to 600%. Now, in a moment, we're going to see what enhanced image does, which is for enlarging photos that are low quality or noisy. And then finally, another one of the exciting options in AI Gigapixel is outputting TIFF files actually at 16 bits per channel. Now, keep in mind that this original image actually was acquired at 8 bits. Because it was a JPEG file, but when we upscale using AI, we can actually create a greater amount of dynamic range as well as creating more resolution. So now we're going to go ahead and hit the start button, and AI Gigapixel starts its magic. And what I mean by magic is it is currently processing 1 to 2 million operations per pixel. So when you're processing a typical photograph, we're talking about trillions of operations that are going to try to recreate that image. Now, as it's doing its thing, it's going to take it just about maybe 30 or 40 seconds until it's done, right? But while it's doing that, I just want to show you, if I was to take this image right now at the resolution that it's in, and if I was to try to print it out, you would notice that at 300 dpi, let me actually change that over to 300 dpi, all right? Switching it over now, as I'm typing, yeah, Gigapixel is working in the background, so it's definitely stealing some of my resources there. I'm going to also switch it over here to inches, okay? You'll be able to see that the number of inches that you would get from the existing image is only going to produce an image that's about less than 2 inches wide and about 2 inches tall, right? That's it, because that's all the resolution that we have, because as you can see from the number of the resolution here, the resolution of the image, because we cropped in, is pretty low. All right, let me now switch over to Gigapixel. As you can see, it's already done. And we're going to do a comparison. Let's take the image now and upscale it 600 times. Nearest neighbor means we're going to actually be able to see the pixels that are there. So here's all the pixels that are in the image. And now let's bring in what AI Gigapixel just did with that information. Oh my goodness. Let me actually copy and paste that in over here just so that everybody can see what's going on. Wow. All right. Let me give you a quick summary of what just happened. All right. This is the information that we have. There's nothing else. This is the only information that AI Gigapixel is looking at. And this is what AI Gigapixel just created. Now, the first thing I want you to notice is if you look at the upper right-hand corner where the eyelashes are, it's not really seeing, even as a human, when you look at these eyelashes, you really can't see the individual eyelashes that are there. Whereas in contrast, AI Gigapixel is imagining all of these individual eyelashes in the upper right-hand corner of the eye. Now, as we continue to zoom away from the photo and navigate around this really beautiful photograph, one of my favorite features is, as we look across the nose, once again, this is the low resolution image, whereas now we could see that AI Gigapixel has introduced these small wrinkles on the nose, which would be typical of the kind of wrinkles and the details that would be really in the monkey. And then further, as we come down here to the areas of the hair, let's get a little closer. Okay, we can see again that this is the low resolution that we're starting off with. Now remember, this is 600% enlarged, both X and Y, 3,600% more information. Okay, there's the after right there. Once again, there's the before, there's the after, and all of this found detail that the AI is imagining is being created from those millions and millions of calculations. Now, this is really scary stuff as far as how good it is and the quality. And the story that this image is now telling is so different because it looks like now two monkeys are kind of come together, whereas as we know, originally it was just a photograph in a mirror. All right, let's move on to some other more exciting examples. And as I'm looking down the list here, probably one of my favorite examples was the first one that I did was with the interior of a car. All right, as I zoomed in, as we get closer and closer, first I want to tell you how I created this low resolution image. What I did was I took a very high res image of the interior of the car and I down resed it to 6 times horizontal and vertical, and this is the resulting image that I got. Now, as you can see, we are so close to this image that all we could see here in the center is 4 pixels by 4 pixels. Now remember, this is all that AI Gigapixel has. There's no more information. This is what AI Gigapixel is imagining is the information that's actually there. Okay, so one more time, this is the low res that we're starting from, and this is what it's imagining. Now, where things get really scary and exciting is when you compare it to the real photograph that's there. So now you're looking at the original high resolution image that I started out with. Now, this is why it's scary, because if you look at where we were, I mean, if you kind of squint your eyes, maybe there's some remnants of a person sitting there with a vent in front of it. But because AI Gigapixel has been trained with millions of photos, it understands what that might be. And that's why when it re-renders that, it is so close to the information that's actually there in the original photograph. Once again, this is AI Gigapixel, and this is the real data that's there. And as you zoom out, this is apparent basically across the photograph. So we have created 600 times more information as we have intelligently upscaled the photo. All right, now let's move on to some images that are going to be used in different kinds of applications. And probably my favorite application is whenever I extract stills from video. So let me play actually a video here for you guys. Let's see if I can find that video for you. There we go. Play a little bit of this. And as you know, nowadays, our HD cameras are capable of capturing really stunning videos. But then the problem has always been when you try to extract a photo from video. So as I step through my video, I'm going to find just the perfect frame, and that's the perfect frame right there. And a little tip for all the users out there, if you are inside of the QuickTime player, which is what I'm in right now, if you Command-C or Control-C on Windows, you will actually copy that frame that you're on into the copy buffer. So now if you switch back over to Photoshop, you can actually go ahead and paste that in, and here's what happens. You've got an image in Photoshop. Now I've already cropped this in from before, just so that we don't have to go through the process. But when you zoom in to a extracted frame of video, as you know, we're gonna end up with the pixels, right? Here's AI Gigapixel once again. So this is what we started out with, especially when we look at details like her hair or her ears. There really isn't enough information there, whereas now all this wonderful information has come into the photo. And normally, if we were going to print this out, we would maybe at 300 dpi get an image that's maybe 2 inches or 3 inches tall at maximum. Whereas now, this image at 300 dpi, as you can see from over here, is going to be, wow, about 18 inches tall, 17.25 inches wide. Okay, incredible, stunning extractions of photos from video is a great application. Doesn't matter if you are an event photographer or a videographer, being able to give your clients these high quality images from videos is definitely a big plus. All right, so video is one of the many sources of low resolution material, but nowadays a lot of people have these really cool panoramic cameras. And I'm sure you've seen these before. These 360 panoramic cameras are so awesome because when you take a picture, essentially you're taking a picture that's 360 degrees all the way around. So as you can see now, as I'm panning around this image, even though there was only a single 360 panorama that was taken, I can now look around and see something that I find interesting in my photo. And right about here, that kind of looks good. I'm going to stop it there. Okay, and we stopped the panning around. And so what I ended up doing was I took that particular frame that I had stopped on, or this pano as I was doing. And if you normally have worked with these pano cameras or these 360 cameras, once again, they're limited in resolution. So when you zoom in, you really don't have much detail there. But once you use AI Gigapixel, you have all this wonderful detail that comes out of it. There's the before, there's the after. So if you do have one of these 360 panos, now you're going to be able to extract much higher quality photos from your 360s. Let me zoom in a little bit closer. Okay, so basically this is where we're starting from. That's the before. That's the after. All right. So when we first made AI Gigapixel, there was a lot of applications that we were exploring. And we knew that, you know, one of my loves has always been 3D computer graphics. So this is something that, for those of you who are interested in computer graphics, you know that we live in a world now where you can create unbelievably realistic computer graphics. So I put together this little comparison. On the left-hand side, what we're showing you here is that this is completely an artificial scene. It's a computer-generated scene. As we zoom in closer, we could see that the center panel over here was actually rendered at 50% of the final resolution. So because when you're rendering 50%, you're rendering a quarter the number of pixels that you would normally render, your 3D renderer ends up working 4 times faster. Right? Now, of course, you're lacking in resolution, But as we look across that line, as I get a little bit closer here, the left side represents what would happen if you didn't have AI Gigapixel, and the right side is how AI Gigapixel has extrapolated all of this wonderful detail from that low resolution rendering. And the final result is, yes, you just rendered 400% faster. So anytime that the computer needs to work hard on generating really, really high resolution images, we have found through a lot of experimentation that the results of 200% upscaling is practically identical to what would happen if you had rendered actually at the final resolution. And it's all because AI is doing such a good job imagining the real details that are supposed to be there. All right. I have so many cool examples to show you, but one of the most recent things that was developed at Topaz Labs is when we started looking at this whole idea of AI imagination, we were constantly comparing what would happen with a real photograph in comparison to what AI was imagining. So as I got really, really close to this photo, once again, this photo was done by taking a high resolution photograph, downscaling it 6 times, and then taking that downscaled version and upscaling it so that we can compare the upscaled AI Gigapixel results with the original photo. As you get really close to the eye, if you kind of squint your eyes, it looks like you can see the silhouette of the photographer in the eye. Okay, I'm sure if you squint your eyes, you kind of imagine it there. Well, guess what? AI Gigapixel actually did imagine the silhouette of the photographer in the center of the eye. Now, where things got really crazy was when we compared it to the real photograph. Now, what you're looking at on the screen right now is the real photo. So once again, this is what AI Gigapixel is imagining is there, and this is the real high resolution photograph. And when you compare that to where we started, again, it's really miraculous that it could extrapolate and imagine that information that's there and how closely that information resembles the real information that was there. Talking about reflections in the eyes, I couldn't show you any eye reflections without showing the work of the Australian photographer, Peter Adams-Shawn. For those of you who have seen any of Peter's works, you know that he's famous for photographing reflections that are in eyes. Okay, let me see if I can actually find one of these photos right here for you. Here we go. So as we zoom in, now Peter Adams-Shawn's photography is all about capturing what happens at a wedding through the reflections that are in the eyes. And as you get close, obviously, this is all you got, right? Here we go. Oh, yeah. I now feel like I'm in an episode of CSI on television when they say, hey, zoom in on the reflection of the eye. Enhance that. Isn't that crazy? This is all that's there. And as we look at some of the things that are around on the table, okay, this is what AI Gigapixel is imagining from all of that. Once again, there's the before and there's the after.
And you're looking at a reflection in somebody's eye on a full res image?
Yes. I know, it's crazy, isn't it? It totally, when I did this one, it totally reminded me of CSI on television. And so it made me chuckle. And I'm so grateful that Peter Adams-Shawn does this beautiful photography from inside of people's reflections, eye reflections, because it's a very unique style of photography, So all of the images that I've been showing you right now are examples of images that are moderately high quality. Some of them were taken with DSLRs, some of them were taken with, smartphones. But now I want to show you something that is really, really low quality. And what I mean by low quality is we went out of our way to make sure that we were going to create the lowest quality image that we could in a compressed image. And here is what it looks like. All right, so took a nice high-res photo. We saved it. Actually, first we reduced it in Photoshop to a particular smaller size. And then we used the JPEG save option in Photoshop to save it out with a quality of 0. Now, for those of you who have used Photoshop, you know that when you go to save it out, when you put it at 0, the resulting file is really small. In this case, it is an image that's less than 17K. So in less than 17,000 bytes, we're representing this image, but obviously the image looks terrible. This is what we gave AI Gigapixel, and this is what it created from it. Now, what makes this even more exciting is when you look at the original image, when you kind of squint your eyes, you can maybe make out the knuckles that she has on her hand. But AI Gigapixel, once again, is imagining these knuckles perfectly. Or when I was looking at the space that's between her fingers, or the macro blocking problems that are happening because of JPEG compression, AI Gigapixel just completely knows how to restore and rebuild those fingers. So it's imagining those details correctly. But as I come down the wrist, what really freaked me out was when I started looking at the way that her bracelets were showing up. JPEG compression is taking the continuity of this kind of like pinkish or reddish bracelet, and it's really breaking it up. And so that's why you really can't see a bracelet there. Whereas AI Gigapixel knows that it should be continuous. So this really terribly compressed image, it's restoring all of those little details that were there. And then finally, as we look at her face, which is, of course, the most important part of the photo, all right, this is where we're starting from. And as I looked at the little golden ring that goes through her nose, as it comes down, the JPEG compression and the pixelization destroys and actually cuts up the ring that was there. AI Gigapixel is smart enough to know that there should be a continuity, and that's why it renders that ring completely through. So once again, there's the before, really severe JPEG compression artifacts, and there's the after. Now, the reason why I love showing you this example is because nowadays, a lot of people share their photography on social media, like Facebook or Instagram. But as you know, Facebook has a tendency of not only reducing the resolution of your images, but it also does a lot of JPEG compression because Facebook is trying to save on the amount of storage that they would have to have for everybody, you know, millions and millions of photos every day. Unfortunately, later on, when families or photographers want to be able to go back and extract some of these photos from Facebook, it's always problematic because they're never going to get back their original high-res images, or they're never, you know, going to solve the problem of the JPEG compression. But as you can see with AI Gigapixel, even in the worst-case scenario, you'll be able to bring these photos in from Facebook and really, really make a stunning photo from it. And you can maybe incorporate that with a photo album with other people. This even holds true when you're at an event, let's say a wedding, where they have a social sharing website where everybody is photographing together. So an entire community has photos that are in a bin, and of course these photos come from a cell phone, but now with AI Gigapixel, each one of those photos can be upscaled for some really amazing results. All right. And I think, let me see, as far as all my examples go, at the end of the day, it's all about being able to not only increase resolution, but also being able to zoom in. So if you are a wildlife photographer and you take a photo like this is very typical of wildlife photography, mainly because you really want to be able to capture the action. So oftentimes photographers that do bird photography or any other wildlife, they frame just a little bit larger, just in case if in this case, the bird moves out of the frame, or they have room to pan the camera, and it results in photographing things that are slightly smaller in the frame. So with AI Gigapixel, when it comes to pushing in on details like this, when you zoom in on it, in fact, I'm going to zoom in a little bit more over here. There's the before, there's the after, and as we get really, really close, once again, when we look across the side of the bird, there's all these little wonderful details that are in the feather that are not being captured in that low resolution information. And AI Gigapixel imagines all of these lines because the neural network has been trained with millions of photos that included birds as well. So it knows actually how to render those feather details correctly. Yes. And I think as far as all the examples that I got to show, I think I'm done. Heath?
That was pretty fast. You got that whole thing wrapped up in 26 minutes. I know we're getting a lot of questions about the interface and how the actual application works. Can you switch to that really quick?
Absolutely, I would love to. All right, so let's actually take a typical workflow and go through it, just so that you'll be able to see exactly step by step how it works. First, we'll bring in an image, right? And I'm going to use just a crop tool over here, and then we'll crop into a little tiny area. Let's say we do this area right here. We'll get even her hair in there. That should be good. I'll just crop that. So now if I was to look at the information of this image, as you can see, this is pretty low res. You know, we got practically nothing there. So I'm going to take this and save that out. In this case, this is actually 16 bits per channel, but that really doesn't matter. Let's save this out as, I'll call it iCrop. Okay, save it out as a TIFF file, which is fine. Hit save. All right, that's good. I'm going to switch back over to AI Gigapixel. And let's just click in the middle. You can even drag and drop the image in there. And let's just choose that file that we just brought in. Now, what I love about AI Gigapixel is that because of its batch processing capabilities, you're going to be able to bring in as many photos as you like. Because at the end of the day, AI Gigapixel is so advanced that it does take some time for it to upscale your photos, but the quality is truly worth it. So in this case, we only got one photo there. We're going to ask for it to, starting all the way from the top, we're going to upscale to 600%. Now, there's no need for us to use this option over here, which is the enhanced image option, because this image is not noisy and it's not highly compressed. As we come further down where it says output format, we can either choose to have the final image be a JPEG, a TIFF, or a PNG. I'm just going to go ahead and leave it at TIFF because that's going to give me a very high quality image that's going to be uncompressed. And here you can choose if you want the image to be compressed or not, and the bit depth. I'm almost always doing my upscales at 16 bits per channel because I love how the AI technology gives me an increased dynamic range as I'm upscaling my photos. When you look at the match input faster, this is a great feature if you know that your incoming image and your output image are going to have the same format. So it helps AI Gigapixel go a little faster so it doesn't have to cross-process from one format to the other. It makes the general processing a bit faster. And then as we come further down, as far as the output name and location, we want this image to end up in the exact same place that it started from, and that's why it says save to input file location. Of course, you can turn that off. It can specify a different folder. So if you are batch processing hundreds or even thousands of photos that you want to be able to upscale, then it's a nice idea to be able to actually set up a different folder where all your upscaled photos are going to go. But in this case, we just want to have it go exactly to the same place. And for the file suffix, as far as what's going to be added to the end of it, in this case, it's just going to put the word output at the end. All right, so all the settings are ready to go. We're going to do 600% upscaling. We click Start, and AI Gigapixel starts working. All right. Now, what's also nice about this is that it's actually showing you the resolution of the image that's coming in, and it's showing you the final resulting image as well. So this is now 6 times, of course, both the horizontal and the vertical resolution that we see there. And in the next few seconds, it'll be done.
Yeah, and it's important to note.
There it is. It's done.
Oh, go ahead, Greg. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, so as I did before earlier in the demonstration, I want to be able to take this image and just kind of show you guys, what would happen if I did just a couple of different upscale options, right? Let me duplicate this here for you. And first, we're just going to do normal, everyday bicubic interpolation here in Photoshop for 600%. Okay, that looks good. We hit OK. Oh, okay, that's been upscaled using Photoshop. Now we're going to do the same thing over here, but this time we're going to use nearest neighbor just so that you guys can see what the real pixels are that are there. Okay, let's click OK on that. Okay, and let me put these together in one layer just so we can kind of like toggle back and forth. And the last thing we want to do is bring in what AI Gigapixel just did, which is right there. Oh my gosh, I can already see it and I'm already excited. Let's copy that. Let's paste that in. And here we go. First, this is the information that we have. That's it, nothing more. This is what AI Gigapixel just created from that information. Now, the first thing I want you to notice is as we look at these little fine strands of hair here in the upper right-hand corner of the image, when you look at the original low-resolution image, there is practically no signs of it there. It's barely visible. If you kind of squint your eyes, you might imagine that there's little strands of hair there. Well, that's exactly what AI Gigapixel imagined as well. It saw these little tiny details of hair and skin and the pores of her skin that are being represented. As I zoom a little further back, talking about the skin texture, once again, this is where we're starting from as we look above her eye at the texture of her skin. And this is what AI Gigapixel is imagining. And this is, of course, because the neural network has been trained with thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of photos that include faces. So it's familiar with how to re-represent or re-render the kind of like skin texture and the skin pores that you would have. And just to compare AI Gigapixel to Photoshop, this is the kind of soft results that you would get from Photoshop's upscaling, and that's AI Gigapixel.
It's built as a batch processing application. It is integrated with Studio. It's a standalone batch processing application. So just like you see here, you can add as many images to this list as you want. You can enlarge by scale, by size. You can input custom sizes. Now there are a couple limits as far as what you can size to. First off, if you use the scale option, you cannot scale higher than 600%, but you can input a custom value to scale anywhere from, I think it's 20 to 600% if you wanted a custom value there. If you go to size, you can scale a size up to an image that is 50,000 by 50,000 pixels. It won't scale higher than that if you're using the size option. Now, those two limits are independent of each other. So if you're using scale, you can't go higher than 600%. If you've got a 100 pixel by 100 pixel image and you want to make it 20,000 by 20,000 in the size option, you're probably not going to get a very good result, but you don't have a limitation to do that. You can do that there. So those limits are independent of each other.
I'm trying to think of all the different kinds of applications that people would have with AI Gigapixel. And I just remembered, I have a lot of friends that are into architectural photography, and I had done one that is for architecture. And this is very typical of photographing buildings, you know, where you got all this wonderful little tiny details that are at the top of the building, like antennas and these radar dishes and all this crazy stuff. And this is probably one of the first images that I did with AI Gigapixel, and that's the result right there. So once again, there's the before. And what was always crazy about working with these first images was looking at really, really tiny little bits of detail. Like, for example, this part right here. To me, when I look at it as a human being, I'm like, I have no idea what's there. Whereas when you look at what AI Gigapixel imagines from it, it kind of imagines that there is like some kind of cable that's there with some kind of a mechanical thing up above it, you know? So that is one of the most interesting things about AI Gigapixel, is watching how its imagination can create things that are so unbelievably realistic. But then things that you know, actually, as far as what they're supposed to look like, that gets even more exciting. Because if you look at the lower left-hand corner of this window right now, so there's obviously some kind of a metal frame that's there that's holding these glass panels in place. Now remember, this is what AI Gigapixel is imagining is there, because this is the image that it was given. It has no idea that there is some kind of a metal panel there. It's actually imagining those details. And so when it renders it correctly, it puts in the proper little triangle there with the frames that go around it. And that is just cool.
One thing that I did want to mention as well, we had a question about file types that are supported. Basically, any file type that Topaz Studio will take, AI Gigapixel will take. It'll take TIFFs, it will take PNGs, it will take JPEGs, it will even take Photoshop documents if you're using compatibility mode in the Photoshop document and it has a matching color profile. It should work. If you're wondering about other system requirements, you can find that out in our help center. I'll include that in the follow-up email. So is there one more thing you wanted to cover? We got a little bit more time.
No, I mean, this is one of the images that I was playing with recently, and it's actually a zoomed-in view of a photograph of a parrot, just to show again that, you know, when you are zooming in, the kind of detail that you can get from it. But I've been involved in image processing my entire life, you know, and then when I used to work for the visual effects industry, upscaling images or pushing in on film and video is something that's very, very useful that directors and artists have done for ages. In my opinion, AI Gigapixel truly is a revolution. Being able to leverage the power of neural networks and scaling up resolution is something that's never been seen before. This is an extremely exciting time to be involved in the field of imaging and photography. Just because of tools like AI Gigapixel, they're going to give you so much more leverage and power in creating the kind of images that you want to create, from your photographs.
Yeah, I have a back library of probably 35,000 images that I took a long time ago on low res digital cameras that I can use now because I have a tool like this.
No, no, that's it. Yeah, I agree. Absolutely.
Cool. Well, we're getting really close to the end of the hour, and since I accidentally messed up with the follow-up email, I want to make sure and get that out on time. So I'm going to go ahead and take the screen back. If you guys want to learn more about Gigapixel, there's a lot that we went over in the interface. You can find a video on that on our YouTube page. That's youtube.com/Topaz Labs. You can also find those videos on the Gigapixel page. That's topazlabs.com/AI-Gigapixel. You can visit our Facebook page for more information, facebook.com/Topaz Labs. You can always visit our forums. We have our own forums that we run and moderate. It's full of awesome users who love to share their creations, love to share information on things that are coming out, things like workflow stuff. It's a really great way to connect with other users. That's discuss.topazlabs.com. And if you're interested in any of the system requirements, again, I'll include a link to the system requirements article for Gigapixel. There's no way to say like if one machine is going to work or another is going to work because it specifically has to do with mainly your GPU. And whether it's powerful enough or not to process that application. If you guys want a free trial too, you can get a free trial off the main page. If you're not sure if you want to buy yet, you can get a 30-day free trial at the Topaz Labs Gigapixel page at the top there. And again, Help Center stuff, you can go to help.topazlabs.com for that. If you have any questions, you can contact us directly at webinars@topazlabs.com. If you guys want to sign up for upcoming webinars, I know we've got John Barclay coming in next week. I'll have that one set up soon at topazlabs.com/webinars. Greg, as always, thank you so much for coming and presenting with us. We need to have you back again real soon for the people who weren't able to make it.
Yeah, yeah, no, my pleasure. I would love to be back and show Gigapixel again.
Yeah, cool. Thank you for all the awesome examples too. Everybody
Thank you.
else, thank you for coming to visit with us. Thank you for spending your hour to learn a little bit about Gigapixel. And we look forward to seeing what you create on our social channels and hearing from you. So we'll see you on a future webinar.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for joining us.